Session 3 deals with reimagining learning spaces. Reimagining learning spaces involves transcending traditional classroom designs to foster dynamic, collaborative, and adaptive environment that cater to diverse learning styles. The first speaker for this session is Dr. Gitanjali Kumar. May I request the AV team to play the video, the profile video?
Dr. Gitanjali Kumar, a practicing counselor, trainer, parenting coach, and a motivational speaker for 25 years. She has conducted more than 25,000 workshops for principals, teachers, and students. She holds Master in Psychology and Education, Postgraduate Diploma in Guidance and Counseling from NCERT, New Delhi. She is a WHO certified life skill trainer, national resource person for nationwide adolescent education program run by Ministry of Human Resource and Development. She has conducted more than 10,000 workshops for teachers, principals, and students on adolescent education, life skill, and areas in CBSE schools, KVs, Sahodaya Vidyalayas, government schools in cities across India and abroad. Dr. Gitanjali's remarkable journey as a trainer, parenting coach, and counselor has impacted thousands of students, teachers, and parents.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. रिवायत को फॉलो मैं भी करूंगी, सो तहे दिल से शुक्रिया मुंबई सहोदय का। आप सभी बुद्धिजीवी जो मेरे समक्ष बैठे हैं, डिग्निटरीज फ्रॉम CBSE, सभी को मेरा अभिनंदन। मैं क्या बात करूं आप सबके सामने, सुबह से हम लोग सुन रहे हैं, मैं भी सुन रही हूं। शायद इतना ज़्यादा NCF की बातचीत एक दिन में इतने घंटे इससे ज़्यादा नहीं हुई है। So, yes, what we need to take, we will definitely take away, जो आपके दिल में जाएगा। As in the afternoon, the gentleman was talking about, और कुछ याद रहे न रहे, ये याद रहेगा कि कितना हिलता हूँ मैं उनकी एज से तो इत्तेफाक नहीं करूंगी क्योंकि दिल से बहुत जवान थे वो। चलिए, बहुत देर से आप भी बैठे हैं, सो मेंटल हेल्थ पर्सपेक्टिव से बात करूंगी। मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल हूँ। एक खेल खेलते हैं, नाच गाना भी हो गया, परफॉर्मर के तौर पे भी बता दिया गया, कहानी सुनानी है, कैसे सुनानी है, नौटंकी करनी है, सबकी बात हो गई। एक खेल खेल लेते हैं। मैं दो ऑप्शंस आप सबको देने वाली हूं। अगर आप पहली ऑप्शन लाइक करेंगे तो आप खड़े हो जाएंगे, और अगर आप दूसरा ऑप्शन प्रेफर करेंगे तो आप बैठे रहेंगे। Are the instructions clear to everybody? चलिए, what did you like in the lunch? Rice or roti? Instructions. First option, you will stand. The second option, you will sit. You will be sitting. Rice or roti? Generally क्या पीना पसंद करते हैं, टी और कॉफी? चलिए, घूमने कहाँ जाते हैं, समुंदर के पास या पहाड़ों के बीच? ओके, बैठ जाइए। माइक्रोसॉफ्ट की एक स्टडी है जो ये कहती है, पोस्ट पेंडेमिक ब्रेन ब्रेक्स की आवश्यकता बढ़ गई है। Sitting and listening, the capacity has reduced. हमारी इमेजिनेशन की बियॉन्ड छोटी हो गई है। सो ब्रेन ब्रेक का कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत जरूरी है फॉर एड्यू लीडर्स टू कीप इन माइंड। मैडम मंजुषा जब बात कर रही थी तो शी वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट लीडर एंड लीडरशिप। स्लाइड कौन बदल रहा है? Somebody is doing that, or am I supposed to do it? Which one, the green or the red? I'm running short of time. Yes, please do. So, एक position है और एक role है. As a leader, how would you like yourself to be remembered? Ma'am, the next slide, please. Yes. एक sentence जो आपको describe कर दे. How would you like to show yourself? For yourself and for people. कहिएगा नहीं, सोच लीजिएगा. ये इसलिए जरूरी है क्योंकि जो टॉपिक मुझे दिया गया है, इमेजिनिंग रीइमेजिनिंग लर्निंग स्पेसेस, एंड द डे मिस्टर राजेश स्पोक विद मी ओवर द फोन कॉल, आई हैव बीन थिंकिंग सिंस देन एंड आई एम स्टिल थिंकिंग. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. लर्निंग स्पेस को डिफाइन करना आसान भी है और आज के दौर में मुश्किल हो गया है. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. This is what my learning could bring me to. The beauty, the importance and the power which a learning space has. And from a mental health perspective, मैं ये जानती हूँ कि जितनी बातें हम inclusion की कर रहे थे, inclusion as a habit, वो तभी आएगा जब हम learning space की importance को समझेंगे. जितना भी हम एनसीएफ को जस्टिफाई करना चाह रहे हैं, जब तक लर्निंग स्पेस को डायनामिक नहीं करेंगे, फ्लूइड नहीं रखेंगे, डाइवर्स नहीं रखेंगे, वर्सटाइल नहीं रखेंगे, विल नॉट बी एबल टू डू जस्टिस. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. हाउ कैन आई soar high if I don't connect myself with my roots? And when I started thinking few weeks ago, this is what I could think of. भगवत गीता की बात करें या हम, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज, शांति निकेतन की बात करें या नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज, चाणक्य नीति की भी आज सुबह बात हुई. ये सब क्या है? These are lessons. एक वॉरफील्ड में दिए गए, एक खुले आसमान के नीचे पेड़ों के तले, नीले गगन के तले, bringing them closer to nature, where they celebrate and experience seasons, not festivals only. क्योंकि जब सीजन को सेलिब्रेट करते हैं तो आप सीजन से मिलता सीजन वाला खाने की बात भी करते हो, उस सीजन के रंगों की बात भी करते हो, जीव जंतु की बात भी करते हो, फूलों की बात भी करते हो, गानों की बात भी करते हो, कविताओं की बात भी करते हो. वी आर कोरिलेटिंग. चाणक्य नीति की जब हम बात करते हैं, लेसन्स जो एक राजा के दरबार में शायद दिए गए, वो नीति के रूप में जो आज भी हमें गाइड कर रही है. लर्निंग दैट इज इटर्नल. लर्निंग का रूप बदल रहा है, स्वरूप बदल रहा है, लर्निंग स्पेस चेंज हो रही है, लेकिन जो कॉन्सेप्ट आज हम जिसकी बात कर रहे हैं, वो लर्निंग स्पेस जो है वो कहाँ से आ रही है? उसकी सोच यहीं से आ रही है. We do take our children to libraries and museums and to parks and to orphanages and to old age homes. But learning, how do we culminate that visit into a learning experience? This is where the edu leaders will have to think a little. Will have to plan a little. I'm sure आपके co-curriculum activity calendar में बहुत कुछ झलक जाता है, लेकिन वो बच्चा उस वर्चुअल रियलिटी के साथ उसको जी पा रहा है. वो मूवी का नाम शायद बवाल है, और उस मूवी का एक बवाल आज भी मेरे दिल में बवाल उठाता है कि वो इंसान जिस भी वजह से घूमने गया जर्मनी, लेकिन उसने जो वहां के म्यूजियम्स में देखा वरुण धवन ने, वो उसने अपने फोन के थ्रू अपने बच्चों को, क्लास के बच्चों को दिखलाया और बतलाया. And the children scored well in history. ये हिंदी फिल्म है, यहाँ सब कुछ हो जाता है, बॉलीवुड है, सब कुछ होता है, लेकिन there is something for us to know कि learning space कितनी diversify हो गई है. There's a lesson in that movie. For people who've not seen, please देखिएगा वो movie को. Next slide. Yes, this is what I gathered from the pandemic times when we started with the webinars. पहली बार CBSE इनिशिएटेड द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ वेबिनार्स, तो हमने भी गूगल मीट करना सीखा, सो लेमन से लेमनेड बनाना सीखा. सो लर्निंग स्पेस एक नई बन के आई. एंड लेट मी कंग्रेचुलेट यू एडू लीडर्स. एट दैट टाइम ऑफ अनसर्टेनिटी एंड अननोन, there was only one thing that was constant in the lives of children. That was education. That was your effort and your endeavors, your teams, कि आपने शिक्षा को उनके कमरों में पहुंचा दिया. ये अलग बात है कि माता पिता परेशान भी करते थे. They sneaked into your virtual classrooms. ये मैम कैसे चीखती है, ये मैम कैसे बोल रही है, सुनो तुम्हारी मैम तो अच्छे से बात नहीं करती है, अच्छा मैं भी प्रिंसिपल को मैसेज करती हूँ. Yes, वो सब चीज़ें भी हो रही थी, but that was the only constant at that time. The only thing that was certain कि रोज सुबह क्लास होगी. That was very much needed at the times of uncertainty. So congratulations to all of you and your teams. You did a tremendous job. और तभी से आगाज हो गया virtual classrooms का, और अब हम थम नहीं रहे, ना हम रुकेंगे. अब हम भारत के एक छोटे से विद्यालय में बैठ के इंडोनेशिया का, फिलीपींस का, कहीं और किसी भी जगह के एक स्कूल के साथ एक प्रोजेक्ट इकट्ठा कर सकते हैं. That is the power, that is the beauty of the real learning space which is now being created. आगे चलते हैं. Next slide please. Yes. Very important for us to connect these dots. हम कैसे क्लासरूम को देख रहे हैं, कैसे हम एक environment को देख रहे हैं, और कैसे हम student को देख रहे हैं. When I was building up this perspective for myself, the only thing that is coming to my mind is 3 slides away for all of us to focus. ये सब कुछ आप कर रहे हैं और अच्छे से करना है. People like me come into being जब यहाँ पर कुछ risks आते हैं. We cannot ignore the learner who's coming to your school, whether in reality or in virtual minds. Next slide please. ये फ्यूचरिस्टिक विजन है, मैं इसकी बात नहीं करूंगी, आप सुबह से सुन रहे हैं. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच नीड्स टू बी रीअश्योर्ड दैट एनीथिंग एंड एवरीथिंग हैपेंस, बट द डायनामिज्म, द करिश्मा, द मैजिक, जादू ऑफ अ टीचर, वो नहीं कम होगा. वो कम हो ही नहीं सकता, उसको कम होना ही नहीं है. और वही लर्निंग स्पेस को रेगुलेट भी करेगी, उसको मॉडिफाई भी करेगी, उसको एक्चुअली में रियलाइज कराएगी फॉर अ लर्नर. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. सो हाउ डज टेक्नोलॉजी, व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी देन? टेक्नोलॉजी इंप्रूव्स द लर्निंग इन द क्लासरूम. टेक्नोलॉजी आपके डाटा को हैंडल कर देती है आपके लिए. टेक्नोलॉजी आपके लिए बहुत सी चीजें आसान करेगी, बट इट इज यू हु इज गोइंग टू डिसाइड हाउ, व्हेन, हाउ मच, व्हिच काइंड ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी यू गोइंग टू यूज. सो लर्निंग स्पेस का रिमोट बटन आपके पास ही रहेगा, जिसे आप कंट्रोल करेंगे. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. सो देन व्हाट इज द वे फॉरवर्ड? ये कॉम्पिटेंसीज जिनकी बात हो रही है, from a psychological perspective, my keen interest is on social intelligence, emotional intelligence. Next slide please. How do we make the person feel belonged? उसकी identity कैसे reinforce होगी, कैसे communication improve होगी. संचार की बात करेंगे हम, क्योंकि संचार से ही बच्चे का आहार जो आप मील प्लान्स के द्वारा देते हैं, या व्यवहार जिसकी हम बात करते हैं, संचार के द्वारा ही आप उनके व्यवहार को भी कंट्रोल कर पाएंगे. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. यस. सो 3 कीवर्ड्स: एम्पावर, कोलैबोरेट एंड कनेक्ट. अब आप एम्पावरमेंट, कोलैबोरेशन एंड कनेक्शन से अपने लर्निंग स्पेस को बढ़ाते चले जाइए. कहानियां सुनाएंगे, बहुत जरूरी है. सुनीता मैडम अभी हमें कहानियां सुना रही थी, और कहानियों से क्या कुछ हम सुन रहे थे, समझ भी पा रहे थे. एंड लेट मी टेल यू प्लीज टीचर्स, प्लीज कहानी किस उम्र में अच्छी नहीं लगती है? कहानी आप और मैं भी सुनना चाहेंगे, सुनाने वाला होना चाहिए। वो कहते हैं ना, इल्म की इब्तिदा भी शोर है और इल्म का इंतहा एक मुतमईन खामोशी। So reflective listening is what we can develop through stories. Very, very important for us to use stories, to narrate stories, to build bridges and cultivate connections. What और thanks में मैडम कह रही थी, अगर हम खुश नहीं हुए तो हमने कुछ नहीं सीखा। और खुशी फाउंडेशनल क्लासरूम्स में नहीं चाहिए। वो 10वीं और 11वीं और वो 9वीं और 12वीं के बच्चों को सबसे ज्यादा मौके चाहिए हंसने और मुस्कुराने के, क्योंकि हम तो उनका गेम्स पीरियड भी ले लेते हैं। हम उन्हें असेंबली में भी जाने नहीं देते हैं। मुझे एक म्यूजिकल प्रोग्राम में जाने दीजिए, नो 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 नो। तुम्हारी मदर ने मना किया है। मदर ने किया है या नहीं किया, बिकॉज मेरा पोटेंशियल स्टूडेंट है, मार्क्स, परसेंटेज, यस। अब सीबीएसई ग्रेड्स नहीं देगा, डिस्टिंक्शन नहीं आएंगी, पता नहीं कितना आराम आएगा, वक्त बताएगा हमें। बट यस, वी रियली रियली नीड टू इन्फ्यूज जॉयफुल लर्निंग्स, ताकि हमारे लर्निंग स्पेसेस खिलखिला उठें। कैसे होंगे, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में देखते हैं। Somebody talked about the third teacher. This is my firm belief. Anybody can be a third teacher. न्यूज़पेपर का आर्टिकल भी एक थर्ड टीचर बनता है। इस होटल में एक व्यक्ति से मुलाकात हुई कल रात को 11:15 बजे। मैं उन्हें भी एक थर्ड टीचर का दर्जा दूंगी अपनी जिंदगी में, बिकॉज कहीं पर भी कुछ भी कभी भी हम सीख सकते हैं, कोई सिखला देता है। So do I have the eye and the intellect to learn? वो छानने की जो कैपेसिटी होती ना, सीविंग की, वो अगर हम अपने बच्चों में ले आएंगे, और उसको लाने के लिए ह्यूमन लाइब्रेरीज, कहानियों की बात हम कर रहे थे, बट आवर चिल्ड्रन रियली रियली नीड टू इंटरैक्ट विद अ ह्यूमन लाइब्रेरी। रानीगंज एक लेटेस्ट मूवी है जो एक्सीडेंटली मैंने देखी, और मुझे उसमें ह्यूमन लाइब्रेरी का कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में आया। दैट जेंटलमैन हु वाज रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू सेव 61 लाइव्स, लास्ट में उनकी तस्वीर आती है, उनकी फैमिली की तस्वीर आती है। एंड आई वाज वंडरिंग, अगर वो इंसान हमारे सामने बैठा हो और अपनी आप बीती बतलाएगा, किस तरीके से, क्या प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ फिजिक्स उन्होंने लगाए, डेविस लैम्प का कैसे इस्तेमाल किया, फैराडेज लॉ कैसे इस्तेमाल किया गया टू अंडरस्टैंड, डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट के क्या प्रिंसिपल्स थे, लीडरशिप की क्या अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी इस मूवी में। और वो रानीगंज, ऑल राइट, मिशन रानीगंज, मैंने काम की बात ले ली बस उसमें से। फॉरेस्ट बेदिंग इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट जो जापान ने इंट्रोड्यूस किया, लेकिन बहुत पुराना है। हमारी ही सोमरस है, किसी नई बोतल में डाल के हमें दे रहे हैं। तो हम वापस चलते हैं अपनी नेचर वॉक्स में। वो पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के अगर हम पढ़ाएंगे, या हम पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के घास को महसूस कर लेंगे, वो जो सेंसरी स्टिमुलाई ब्रेन को एक्टिवेट करता है। वी टॉक अबाउट बेयरफुट वॉकिंग टू ईज डिप्रेशन। होगा ही नहीं अगर हमारे बच्चे अपने टेक्टाइल रिस्पॉन्सेस को अलर्ट रख पाएंगे। Yesterday I met a group of principals who said कि मैडम कुछ ऐसी बात कीजिएगा ना, एग्रेशन और वायलेंस थोड़ा कम हो। I said वो मेरा टॉपिक नहीं है, वो डे 2 में शायद कोई बात करेगा, लेकिन मैं ये जानती हूँ कि जितना हम बच्चों को नेचर के करीब लाते हैं, सहजता, सरलता उनके जीवन में आता है, इंतजार करना आता है, मौसम का, रुतों का, स्वाद का, रंगों को समझना आता है, ऑब्जर्व करना आता है, देखना आता है, दिखलाना आता है। सो एग्रेशन और वायलेंस धीरे धीरे कम होता चला जाता है। ये मेरा यकीन है। आई हैव ट्राइड इट आउट इन माई 25 years ऑफ वर्क। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। मुझे अल्टीमेटम मिल चुका है, बस 2 मॉडल्स की बात कर रही हूँ। जब लर्निंग स्पेस के बारे में सोच और पढ़ रही थी तो कुछ मिला जो आपके काम आएगा कि एक लर्निंग स्पेस में ये 7 हिस्से होने चाहिए। अब ये एक मॉडल है, दूसरा मॉडल भी देख लीजिए मैम, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। यस, कैंप फायर जहां पे बत्ती जलती है, कोई लेक्चर देता है, वाटरिंग होल जहां पर मैं बैठ के सोचता हूं, उस लर्निंग को प्रोसेस कर लेता हूं। यहां मैं केव में मैं चुपचाप बैठ के काम कर लेता हूं। लाइफ में जब मैं अपनी लर्निंग्स को शोकेस कर लेता हूं, इसीलिए मल्टी मोडल फॉर्म्स ऑफ असेसमेंट की बात की जा रही है, इसीलिए होलिस्टिक प्रोग्रेसिव कार्ड्स की बात की जा रही है, क्योंकि शायद हम ये ऐसा लर्निंग स्पेस मॉडल कंसीव कर रहे हैं अपनी सोच में। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। अब ये आती है मेरे दिल की बात। एक बच्चा अपने बैग के साथ साथ अपने दिल में क्या लेके आता है, कितना दर्द है, कितनी टीस है, क्या एक्सपीरियंसेस है लाइफ के उस बच्चे के। हम कब उससे पढ़ेंगे, सर्कल टाइम में पढ़ेंगे या कॉफी विद मम्स में पढ़ेंगे, या हम 5 मिनट की वो जो ताजा खबर एक्टिविटी करते हैं जिसमें दिल का हाल जानेंगे। उसकी मुस्कुराहट आज बनावटी है, वो आज थोड़ा चुप है। This is very important for a learning space to have these kind of stimulation for our children to actually open up. मैम स्लाइड्स बदलते जाइए, बड़ी मेहनत की है, आगे चलिए। Yes, so psychological safety is very very important. सिर्फ 3 keywords हैं। How do we promote it? How do we intervene when we see a problem? And how do we measure in terms of how are they improving? Next slide please. बहुत सारे तरीके हैं, इन पे बात नहीं करूंगी, बस आप स्लाइड्स बदलते जाइए, मैं अपनी बात को खत्म कर दूंगी। एक बात मेरा अपना एक्सपीरियंस रहा, एक सीपीआर की ट्रेनिंग वर्कशॉप थी which I was asked to attend and I attended. And while I was attending the workshop, I was thinking, why am I here? I'm not a doctor. मुझे सीपीआर क्यों करना है? उस वक्त ऐसी सोच थी। ट्रेनर बहुत अच्छे थे, अब इस वक्त दुनिया में नहीं रहे, बहुत काम किया उन्होंने इस फील्ड में। उन्होंने एक पॉइंट पे आके क्या कहा, educators sitting here will use it, mental health professionals sitting here will use it. और जैसे ही उन्होंने ये बात कही, my entire mindset changed. From that uncomfortable questioning feeling, I felt this is for me. Somebody has acknowledged me, somebody has seen me, somebody has realized that I may benefit. I felt belonged, I felt acknowledged. Very very important for a learning space. आगे चले जाइए मैम, लास्ट तक पहुंच जाइए। Very very important for us to give that kind of a understanding to children that they belong to the learning space, and we as edu leaders can do it so beautifully. वो कहते हैं ना, मैं अपनी वाणी को अब इसी बात से विराम दे देती हूँ कि कौन कहता है कि सिर्फ चिरागों से रोशनी होती है, किताबों से भी रोशनी भरपूर होती है। सो आप सबको अलविदा। आप अपने अपने दायरों में खूब रोशनी बढ़ाइएगा, जरूर बढ़ाइएगा। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you, Dr. Gitanjali Kumar, for that insightful presentation. May I now request Mr. Manoj Sharma and Mr. Arjun Sharma, Academia partner from Quick Campus, to felicitate Dr. Gitanjali.
check, check. Okay, so mic check. Ladies, gentlemen, कैसे हैं आप सब लोग? मुझे पता ही ठीक नहीं है. Ladies, gentlemen, कैसे हैं आप सब लोग? ठीक. मुझे इन्होंने कहा है, they just provide me a 1 minute and they asked me to put some motivation. I'll try to put some motivation if you don't mind. मेरे साथ दीजिएगा, एक बार वावा बोल सकते हैं? Say वावा. Say वावा. I'll put something motivational, ma'am, that is really important right now. सुनिएगा कि चींटी चढ़ी पहाड़ पे. मोटिवेशन थोड़ी वावा दीजिए यार. चींटी चढ़ी पहाड़ पे. I need a little bit more louder वावा. चींटी चढ़ी पहाड़ पे. चींटी चढ़ी पहाड़ पे और जब थक गई तो उतर गई. एक बार चींटी के लिए जोरदार तालियां हो जाए. प्लीज पुट योर हैंड टुगेदर फॉर चींटी. So they have a lots of a gents member. How many married people in the house? Can you please raise your hand? How many married people? बहुत सारे हैं. Sir, what's a good name? Can you please stand for a second? हाँ, what's a good name? Ladies and gentlemen, एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए for MJ everyone. तालियां बजा दो यार. पीछे वालों से भी रिक्वेस्ट है. Can you please put your hand together for MJ? MJ सर, आपको पता है मैंने आपको खड़ा क्यों किया है? Do you have any idea? मुझे भी नहीं पता, मैंने ऐसे ही किया था. बैठो. I don't have anything. So this is for you, the last set of शायरी. Then we move forward for the presentation part. सुनिएगा कि बीवी होती है नाराज. वावा चाहूंगा आप लोगों की. थोड़ा जोरदार वावा दे दो यार. कि बीवी होती है नाराज तो पति मना लेता है. हस्बैंड, राइट? हस्बैंड होता है नाराज तो कोई नहीं मनाता. मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा सभी हस्बैंड के लिए एक बार पहले जोरदार तालियां हो जाएं. And now it's time for some more presentation. But before I go, I just request to all of you guys, ladies and gentlemen. I request to all of you guys, before I go, I just want to say that, ladies and gentlemen. इसमें कुछ है नहीं, मैं ऐसे बोल रहा हूँ. Thank you for everyone. I request कि आपके चेहरे की मुस्कुराहट ऐसी बनी रहे. जब मुझे बुलाएंगे मैं आ जाऊंगा. Thank you everyone. Keep smiling. अच्छा. मैं आपको बता दूं, मैं दिल्ली से स्पेशल इस काम के लिए आया हूं. एंड आप लोगों ने मुझे पे भी किया इसके लिए. एंड दैट वर्क इज कि मुझे किसी को की देनी है. किसी की की गुम हो गई है तो की रूम नंबर इज 330. रूम नंबर 330. मैं एक और सुनाता हूं जल्दी. रूम नंबर 330 जिसकी भी की हो ले लीजिएगा. अब सुनिए सुनिए सुनिए. पहाड़ों को चीर दूंगा. शो मी सम एनर्जी. मैम आप कहां जा रही हैं? यू लुक सो ब्यूटीफुल. ट्रस्ट मी, यू लुकिंग सो ब्यूटीफुल. या हाय एवरीवन, दिस इज शाहरुख खान. जल्दी से. पहाड़ों को चीर दूंगा. आप दे नहीं रहे बाबा. पहाड़ों को चीर दूंगा. आगे मुझसे बन नहीं रहा, बनेगा तो बता दूंगा. थैंक यू एवरीवन. 330 किसी की नंबर ले लीजिएगा. मैम नाउ ओवर टू यू. मैम आपकी की है? आपकी नहीं, बट मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा आप बहुत सुंदर लग रही हैं. यू लुक लाइक अ रेखा मैम. एक मैम के लिए जोरदार तालियां हो जाए. थैंक यू एवरीवन.
Our next speaker is Dr. Senthil Kumar. May I request the AV team to please play the video?
Dr. A. Senthil Kumaran, Chief Confluencer and co-founder of the Learners Confluence, Chief Mentor and Director Excel1. Dr. Kumaran is a former Principal Counselor and Head Education Excellence Initiatives at CII Institute of Quality. Led educational initiatives like CIIS Schools, Excellence Clusters, International Learning Mission to Singapore and Finland. Dr. Kumaran delivered presentations on excellence in education in countries including Saudi Arabia, Oman, China, in the United States. He also hosted Teen Sawal, a popular Facebook live series empowering teachers with 43 plus episodes. Dr. Senthil Kumar stands as a beacon of transformative leadership in education. Dr. Senthil Kumar's journey is a testament to the enduring influence an individual can have on shaping the future of education.
Thank you. Over to Dr. Senthil Kumar, who will be presenting an interesting session on the A7 mantras for future schools. Over to you, sir.
Namaste to everybody. I said namaste. I have a little bad throat, but I can't shout out like him. But this is a teacher's voice, so I think the people in the last row also should be able to hear. Thank you, team CBSE, the Sahodaya, Mumbai Sahodaya for organizing this. I know that it's not very easy to get people together, and I always consider this annual event as a Kumbh Mela, and every principal here is trying to play their own akhada. Like I saw one row full of Punjab, जो हमें शक्कर का ज्ञान दे रहे थे, गुड़ का ज्ञान दे रहे थे. Thank you very much, because it's very difficult to kind of get people together, and उससे भी difficult तब होता है जब आपको जो बात मालूम है उसको दोबारा आपको बोला जाता है तो लगता है कि situation क्या है. So I think I hope you understand what I am trying to talk about. I don't know when the call came from Mumbai Sahodaya saying कि we would like you to talk about reimagining learning space. तो मेरे को समझ में नहीं आया, ना तो मैं आर्किटेक्ट हूँ, ना तो मैंने कभी किसी स्कूल बनाया है, किसी को ज्ञान दिया है, why they are asking me to do. But then I said, let me do little कोशिश based on a practicing teacher. As a teacher, what I feel क्या हो सकता है, whether it comes from the affiliation norms, whether it comes from the school's utility perspective, what exactly I feel when I walk into classrooms. So right, so first and the foremost thing, look at this particular picture. This, any guess, where is this particular school? Any guess? Anyone? Vablewadi, which is few hundred kilometers from this particular place, and this is a Jila Panchayat school in Maharashtra, 23 kilometers from Pune. When I walked into this particular campus for the first time, मेरे को लगा ये तो ना तो प्राइवेट है, सरकारी है, तो सरकारी में यदि एक प्रिंसिपल ने ऐसे कुछ काम किया है तो जरूर उस प्रिंसिपल ने कुछ तो सोचा होगा. इससे पहले मैंने कई स्लाइडों में कई थ्योरी देखे. I saw a lot of theories when it comes to education philosophy, what kind of learning systems we need, what kind of assessments we need. But I think when I asked this particular person, why did you put the glass around it, he never knew. He never knew. Because that time I started realizing that there is something called as regio, which talks about, like my earlier speaker said, environment as a third teacher. So how do you bring outside, inside the classroom is something which is very, very important. So this is one of our schools. So if we are trying to reimagine, we should not start from our own respective campuses. We should also start understanding कि हमारे देश में क्या हो रहा है and what exactly needs to be done. So thank you once again. A disclaimer which I put in all my sessions, that I have just pulled out pictures across the country, outside the country. During my travel experience, wherever I have gone, I keep picking up pictures, and I think those pictures help me when I come for such sessions, and it's quite interesting. Whenever I go to schools, and whenever I talk about learning spaces, when I try to talk about labs, people, जब भी मैं किसी school में गया, first thing they show me, oh, this is our new lab, this is our new infrastructure. Somehow I always feel this is something like a white elephant. Very difficult to manage. Very difficult to manage, but we don't know how to utilize that on our routine. Nobody is allowed inside the lab, and I am sure one of the NCRT director, he shared a very interesting example in one of the conferences of CII in my earlier avatar. He said a very interesting thing कि जब पहली बार कंप्यूटर आया, सारे के सारे सीनियर ऑफिशियल्स कंप्यूटर सेंटर में थे, तो लोगों को लगा कि वाह कितना टेक्नोलॉजी पे हमें प्यार आ गया. लेकिन बाद में पता था कि वो एक ही एसी का कमरा था हमारे पूरे के पूरे कैंपस में, एंड ताकि सारे के सारे लोग वहां पे थे करके. So we really need to understand कि हमारा जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, हमने जो बनाया, whatever we have created, is it actually really getting used for the purpose what we are trying to look for? And whenever we are trying to talk about, we need to be very, very clear. Look at, this is a container school. This is another way to look at the same kind of a container school from a different level. And this is somewhere very close to this particular place where we are at Thane, Signal School. Now, if I go to all these three schools and I'm going to ask for CBSE, कि please जरा इसको affiliation दीजिए, तो affiliation नहीं मिलेगा. Because they don't go through all the NBC National Building Code 2015 will not be even followed out at there. So what exactly is supposed to be done? इतना ही नहीं, किसी ने कंटेनर से पूरा का पूरा स्टेडियम ही बना दिया. What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is learning spaces are purely decided based on the need. If my need is not very, very clear, I am just trying to create one more infra in my campus and to be shown to all the guests who come to my campus कि मेरे पास भी ये है. It is not about मेरे पास भी है. And I'm sorry to say that कि काफी स्कूलों में, कई स्कूलों में अच्छा हो रहा है, काफी स्कूलों में Atal Tinkering Lab was a fantastic concept. NEP talks about sharing of resources. 4 बजे के बाद कितने दरवाजे खुले हैं? Go back and check. कि आज हमारे स्कूलों में अटल टिंकरिंग लैब इज अ शेयर्ड रिसोर्सेस एज अ लर्निंग स्पेसेस. कितने स्कूलों ने उसे खोल के रखा हुआ है कि आसपास का कम्युनिटी आके बच्चा शाम को वहां पे काम करे, चाहे वो मेकर्स लैब के रूप में, और ही और शी कैन स्टार्ट यूजिंग टू एक्सपेरिमेंट समथिंग न्यू. And we are talking about something very, very important, which is called as reimagining learning space. Fantastic definition. When we try to talk about reimagining, it should foster, what it should foster? Innovation, adaptability, inclusivity. And when we try to read all this in the SQUA document, I think many of us have filled in SQUA document. I know. काफी लोगों ने जिनका affiliation pending है, they have already applied for SQUA document, and many of you might have already given yourself as 3 and 4. दिल खोल के सबने 3-4 दिया. But उसका जो पहला question है, that question says, do you have a pedagogical plan based on 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4? जब आपके पास pedagogical plan ही नहीं है, तो आपने 3-4 दिया कैसे? So go back and reflect and look at particularly that particular area which talks also about inclusivity. People were worried, oh अब lift लगाना पड़ेगा, ये करना पड़ेगा. अरे this was supposed to be done earlier also. This was supposed to be done earlier also. जब circular आया, then we woke up maybe. अब SQUA में fill करना है, maybe we may have to kind of create some minutes of meeting कि हाँ हम create करेंगे. Sorry. That is where we really need to understand that why are we trying to talk about, and the two important messages that today we are becoming interconnected. And we are not talking about only one thing, we are talking about all kinds of benchmark when it comes to learning. When it comes to learning, we are trying to compare ourselves. जब भी हमें कोई बोले कि India, look at number of CEOs what we have created. कहाँ से create किया? School का वातावरण क्या था? Probably we really need to reflect. Let me try to show something very, very interesting on this particular learning space. What are some of my thoughts, or what are 7 mantras which I think which is very, very important. We may have to rewind a bit, we may have to forward a bit, we may have to pause a bit while we are trying to look at our learning spaces. So what is that it basically tries to talk about? The first and the foremost is curriculum aligned space. Whatever we are trying to say कि ये हमारे curriculum में, do we have a supporting infrastructure to that particular curriculum? I'm not very sure about it. We create because we found it in a nearby school or a 5 kilometer ahead, or we went to another country, we took some pictures, came back and then said कि we need to create this. And let me show you some examples. This is just not a kitchen. This is not just a play area for early years in one of the schools in Bangalore. This is not a school. How this particular place is getting utilized is something very, very important. I can write the best thing in my lesson plan, but if the child is not going and utilizing this particular facility, it is a beautiful showcase in my campus. अच्छा लगता है ना देखने में भी. Not only this, we really need to understand the outdoor places are very beautifully created. पहले किसी ने बनाया, उसको किसी और ने replicate किया. इतना ही नहीं, today we are trying to talk about skill, suddenly competency. No, all these were existing. SUPW का एक पीरियड होता था, मैंने है नहीं कहा, होता था. And when it is है, तो I'm still happy. But उसकी definition, so some useful periods are being wasted or socially useful productive work, I don't know. I don't know what is actually being done. And that's where I think it is very, very important that today schools have suddenly started working on lot of interesting practices if my curriculum talks about cooking, if I talks about how to do chopping, how to work on it, is something very, very important. And this pictures, whatever I'm showing, it's a school in Kanyakumari. It's a school in Kanyakumari where it is integrated as part of the curriculum, and that's what is something very, very important. This particular management went to Finland, learned something very, very interesting called as home economics, brought this home economics concept, and then saw how exactly over a period of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, even before circular came, he started working on it, and this is a classic example of it. So you saw one of the learning spaces. The second kind of a learning space which is very, very important is personalized adaptive learning. The second important space which we need to kind of look at it, how it can be adaptive for my requirement. And I'll show you again a picture from Wablewadi. When I went to this particular school, I saw kids sitting and playing independently. हम बोल सकते हैं कि 3 Idiots तो एक film थी. We can say about it, but this is a real-time picture from Wablewadi school, जहाँ पे बच्चे independently बैठ के अपने अनुसार started. And this is not only with कह सकते हैं कि science, this was also seen in the music period. Children with a similar interest sat down together and started working with that. And this particular school has only 3.5 teachers, that is 3.5 teachers. 1 teacher comes on part-time and 3 teachers. So the student take ownership for managing all these places. So this is what is all about, how exactly I can create personalized learning spaces. And today we can have best of furniture, best of things to basically work on it, but this is something which we really need to look for. The next important thing is outdoor. हर कोई outdoor के बारे में जानता है. Everybody talks about it, but how much it actually gets into the program is something very, very important. I don't know how many of you have read this interesting book called as Bala. Kabir Vajpayee has written fantastic book on how to make your place building as a learning aid. I don't have any interest in that business of it, okay? I'm just giving you as an example because it's very important for you to procure that book, go through it, and then make sure that instead of creating one more white elephant, how can I use my existing facility and make meaning out of it? Make meaning out of it. And this is not only for this. This is again in the northern part of the country in Rajasthan. This is in Chennai. This is again in Chennai, where we try to talk about कि हमें wiring कैसे घर की करानी है. We are talking about skill shortage, but our school is actually a CBSE school is actually doing this. Not only this, they have also introduced something very, very interesting in learning space. They have said that the major problem which comes in the toilets is the nozzle pipe, the commodes, and all those stuff. So the school teachers, as part of their learning, and this is a learning place, no reimagination required, already happening. Only thing, we have to understand how will I take back this learning, and is there a necessity for me to basically work on this. Another interesting is this technology infused learning hub. This is something which I went to one of the future classrooms in Korea in my recent visit, and I saw this very, very interesting facility there. And I love that particular classroom ambience. It's not only about technology, it is all about hands-on activity being done by the teacher, by the student. By the teacher and by the student, where they were trying to play with, the teacher is having the mobile and she is playing with the mobile there. Her content is already there. The children are working. She gives the time and she starts working on it. So we really need to understand how exactly are we going to work on it. Now I think many schools suddenly started, okay, we should have aquaphonics. We are trying to talk about it. Aquaphonics is not important in technology. My new learning was how much time this particular thing takes, how much time those plants take to grow. This is nothing but called as smart farming. This is where technology has to be used. Just using technology and then saying कि हमने सब कुछ कर लिया, I'm sorry about it. It's only a technology tool that we used in distress. We used only a technology tool, whenever used technology. If that was the case, then probably I think life would have been much more interesting. The day we started making Google Sheets, children knew how to press Ctrl U and get the answers from it. You became little more smarter. The children also said, एक submit करेगा, सारे answer आ जाएंगे, एक में मैं fail हो जाता हूँ, एक में तुम fail हो जाओ करके. So children were equally smarter. So probably we really need to understand this particular perspective, what we are trying in terms of smart and technology getting infused. It's not only about technology, how do you engage community? How do you engage community? And this is going to be the new set of things which is happening. This is a new set of things which I should say CSR, corporates should start looking at it. Schools also should start construct such facility near the school gate so that it can be given to the community, which NEP basically expects you to do it. Again, the Panchayat president of Wablewadi is sitting with the children under a tree, and that is also a learning space. He is teaching the children, he is educated, he is teaching, no learning space required. Kele ka patta is learning space, or kele ka pauda. Itna hi nahi. Probably this is something which I recently picked up from South Korea. People are already preparing for e-sports in the next Olympics. अभी तक हमारे पास ये प्रॉब्लम है कि टेक्नोलॉजी हम लेसन प्लान में यूज करें, असेसमेंट में यूज करें, करेगा तो ये कंट्रोल सी कंट्रोल भी करके पिछले साल का लेसन प्लान दे देगा, क्वेश्चन पेपर. सो वी आर स्टिल ट्राइंग टू फाइट आउट विद द रूटीन्स, बट देयर आर पीपल हु हैव क्रिएटेड स्पेसिफिक zones, community centers where all this can be created. This is not only this. This is all about IoT space, and I'm going to show you something very, very interesting. Look at the floors. Look at the 5 floors, and this is a community center which has got created in Seoul, which I had the opportunity to see last month. And if you try to look at every floor, look at the labs which is being done. You have a creator studio, you have a career lab, you have a cafe, you have auditorium, you have a parking, multiplex, makers lab, robot lab, IoTs, and all these are shared facility. If I go back and read NEP document on shared facility, this is what exactly it expects us to do. How much common facility I can create, aap kitna create karenge, main kitna create karunga. And I think that is what is something which is very, very important, which we need to look at it. This is not only happening in this part of the world, and this is catering to this environment. Now look at the number of houses, and all across similar kind of construction is there, and this community center is inside. So what does it talk about it? The learning spaces what we are trying to create. And the most interesting thing which I saw in this particular place, a 10-year-old to a 62-year-old sitting and using the same facility, interestingly, to understand what is AI. We talk about drone, and I saw a complete drone-related activity happening in that particular place. So what I'm trying to say is that whenever we are trying to talk about a learning space, we need to understand the need, and the need is very, very clear. We will be able to understand. This is not only about this. I think many of us have read a lot of articles about Finland Future School. And this is the school which I had the opportunity to visit. I said, ki, kya hai future mein, jara hum bhi jaake dekhe, samjhe. And when we went to this particular place, again, I'm not getting into detail of the school and the theory and the practices. I'm only trying to say the learning spaces. And in the learning spaces, what was very, very interesting is, there is a upper primary school, there is a daycare, there is a lower primary school, there is a common auditorium, there is a sports, and there is a lobby and assembly area. Look at the facilities which has been very, very clearly been defined and put across very, very clearly. So there is a cafe where the parent can come and wait. There is a facility where I can actually come and engage. And when I have a common facility, and this is just a layout just to give you, when you're thinking about a space, learning spaces, look at such models too. Not only this is again a very interesting school in Bangalore. Complete cardboard mein bana hua school hai. The whole school is done on cardboard. Humko ye lagega pocha marne samay kaise chalega. Our thinking is that, and this is nothing but an old factory building which has got converted into a preschool. Many people will give all the gyan around it, but look at the facility. They have a sleeping zone, they have a green, they have common facility. Everything is available in this particular facility, and that's something very, very interesting. Schools have also started. One of the most abused things, unfortunately, now, when we go to schools is SDG. Jahan bhi dekho SDG, SDG, SDG. Lesson plan mein ek row or column add karke SDG. I think it doesn't happen like that. SDG has to be ingrained into your practices, and if it is not getting ingrained, you are not going, yeah, don't do it. I'll finish. Don't do it. Is that farming, again, we try to talk about, are we really trying to create something like this? We don't have to require, yeah, give me the hand. again, we have been talking, only submitting a project for 1 or 2 awards. We may try to create कि हमने ये कर दिया, ये कर दिया. It is not about that. Sustainability of a practice is something which is very, very important. There is a school in Raipur. There is a school in Raipur which uses all their paper, waste paper. They recycle the paper and all the जितने भी आज गिफ्ट दिए गए थे गेस्ट को, वो सारे के सारे गिफ्ट पेपर स्कूल के बच्चे ही बना के प्रिंट करके देते हैं. Handmade paper is getting used in that particular school. So there is a CBSE school in your own board which is available at Raipur and doing a great job. So what I am trying to talk about is that whenever we try to talk about sustainability learning spaces, we really need to give some effort, otherwise we are not going anywhere. With all this, one more very interesting thing. आजकल मॉल का बड़ा कल्चर है, तो I thought मैं भी जरा मॉल का कुछ एग्जाम्पल दूं. There is something which is called as vertical campuses, which is a new concept which is coming up into the education space, which is very, very important, and we are expected to look at this kind of a space to make sure that we have all the facility available. But I am not very sure whether we will get the affiliation for this or not. Okay, that is my problem. Okay, otherwise this may be sir, मैं बोल रहा हूँ, I think you can consider, but this is something which we really need to do. But I'm quite happy. पहले 2 एकड़ से 1 हुआ, 1 से 0.5 हुआ, and today we are with 0.5. There are places where we are actually working on it, and that's fantastic. Not only this, this is again something very, very interesting. You can come and sit in a library. You can come and sit. You want to be a solo reader, you can look at the beautiful view outside Helsinki, and you can actually look at it. Look at and read whatever book you want to book. Not only this, you can go back and create your own printing. You can do a 3D printing by paying certain things. You can go to that particular facility and try to see that how it can be self-sustainable. It's all about sales. Not only this, look at the complete book layout, what is there. Not only this, look at how people are playing chess in that same place. All this is done in one particular facility, which is very, very specifically looking at this. There is a children play area, and all this is happening in this particular mall, which is called as OD Library in Helsinki. Now we don't have to go back and start looking at कि ओ नया क्या करना है कैसे. No, how exactly every square feet of your facility is actually getting used, I think that's very, very important. We do all sorts of audits in our campus. How many times we have done utilization audit of our labs? Utilization audit. I'm asking a very, very important point कि हम infra बना लेते हैं, लेकिन are we actually trying to use that particular facility for the purpose with which we presented as a project proposal? I think that's something important. So learning mall is one more question. It is not only for students. Can you guess what is this? This is a facility आप लोगों के लिए, teachers के लिए. Done in one of the schools in Chennai. And very, very interesting thing is that ये सारा का सारा faculty and staff only. कितना अच्छा होता ना, हमारे स्कूल में भी एक ऐसी जगह होती, कम से कम substitution period से वहाँ जाके तो बैठ जाते थोड़ा बहुत. Because all of us, particularly after COVID, we really have lot of challenges, and I am sure most of the principals sitting here, you might have suddenly seen a new culture in your campus, something called as carrying water bottle to the classroom. जो कोविड से पहले नहीं होता था, अब हो रहा है हमारे स्कूलों में. सडनली वाटर बॉटल का बिजनेस अच्छा हो गया स्कूल के कारण पता नहीं, लेकिन जो 40 मिनट what we used to spend earlier to basically read or take class, today we are not able to do. By 4th period, 5th period, they are exhausted, and only thing which is happening for many principals is जैसे ही आप थोड़ा pressure डालो, ma'am, my father-in-law is not keeping well, take the resignation. That's all. Immediately I give resignation, I walk out of that particular place, and that's all is happening. So to get somebody as a faculty at that time, it's still very, very difficult. So I can understand and empathize what exactly you're. So that's some facility for the teachers too in the campus. But we have to go back to basics. कभी कभी हम बड़े बड़े jargons, reimagining के चक्कर में basics को छोड़ देते हैं. And what is that particular basic? First and the foremost thing, if you're going to revisit, if you're going to, after the session, if you're going to go back and revisit, first try to find out whether it is aligned to your school curriculum or not. Give me 2 minutes. Adhere to the regulatory and statutory. I might have said a comment here, but please follow all the norms given by CBSE, local state government or authorities in your areas. It is very, very important. You may lose out your affiliation too. You may lose out your recognition too. So please follow while adhering to those. Third, we heard a lot of people talking about early years. I think NEP is first time probably not talking about grades, talking about developmental stage. We really need to look at developmental stage. Age से कुछ नहीं होता. Developmental stage growth बच्चे की उस उम्र में क्या होती है? That is what is important. Not only this, it should be adequate. That's where I think when circular came, maximum number of children in a classroom, I think lot of us had lot of discomfort. When the numbers restriction came in, I think many schools had the problem कि हमारे पास classroom नहीं है क्या करें करके. So probably I think we need to look at adequate and accessible. When I'm talking about accessible, I'm talking about being inclusive. And I'm quite thrilled for the first time under the SQA, inclusive is given as a criteria. Fantastic. It's a great move. At least ab people will answer that. To answer that question, still now it is not compulsory for to get your affiliation. It's still a voluntary. But if it becomes compulsory, I'll be the first person to be happy. At least now people have started consciously looking at that particular parameter. Functionality and aesthetic, you can't be putting something which is wrong. And the second last important thing is that safety and hygiene. Many a time as a school, we think that we are supposed to only provide gyan. Sorry. We did a survey in Tamil Nadu, particularly in Madras, when we were, Chennai to be very precise. When we did this particular survey with lot of parents, they said only one thing, हमको academics नहीं चाहिए, hygiene, safety चाहिए. We want hygiene and safety. People wanted to come and see children toilet before they wanted to put their kids into that particular school. So what does that talk about it? I think we really need to kind of go back and work on it. And final, which is very, very important, is measure the utilization effectiveness. इस साल हमने यूज कर लिया, अगले साल किया क्या पता नहीं, but I think it's very, very important. आप लोगों को देखा होगा सेंदिल ने इतना अच्छा डेफिनेशन कहाँ से उठाया? ये मैंने नहीं उठाया. I think I should thank ChatGPT. वो ChatGPT मेरी डेफिनेशन नहीं है, वो ChatGPT की डेफिनेशन है. खाली मैंने थोड़ा उसको रिफाइन करके आपको प्रेजेंट किया. That's all. Why I wanted to tell it, कि even to make a small presentation, today all of us are dependent on it. आजकल स्पीचेस में पता चल जाता है कि कौन से वर्ड रिपीटेटिवली चैट जीपीटी बोलता है यदि आप प्रोफेशनल चैट जीपीटी यूजर हैं तो. So we really need to work. But moral of the story is very, very clear. Control C, Control V doesn't work. Please understand this particular point. Control C, Control V doesn't work. You really need to understand this particular point. You really need to understand this particular point कि आपके स्कूल की नीड क्या है? What is the total classroom size that you have? What is the profile of people who are coming into your campus? What is the curriculum that you are going to set for yourself? All that plays a very, very important role. Then only we can actually talk about. So infrastructure बनाने से पहले, learning space बनाने से पहले, hope पिछले 20 minutes में I should have started doing this with all of you. With that note, Namaste, and thank you very much for the opportunity to the Sahodaya team for getting me here. And I'm available here if anybody wants to fight. We'll have the chat in the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Senthil Kumar. May I request Mr. Prem Pradhan from Quick Campus to please felicitate Dr. Senthil. As we progress to a focal point of our conference, let's embrace the upcoming highlight, the first panel discussion. Each distinguished panel member brings a distinctive perspective to the table, delving into the theme of Beyond Walls, Redefining Learning Spaces for 21st Century Education. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to them, acknowledging their insights with a resounding round of applause. The panel head, Dr. Rashmi Rekha Saha, Treasurer, Mumbai Sahodaya. Ma'am, may I request you to please come on to the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Dr. Rashmi Rekha Saha. The panelists for today, Mr. Girish Dalvi, Mr. Rajiv Mohan Pandey, Mr. Atul Chak, Mr. G.B. Patil, and Mr. Rajesh George. May I request all of you to please come up on the dais. Mr. Girish Dalvi, Mr. Rajiv Mohan Pandey, Mr. Atul Chak, Mr. G.B. Patil, and Mr. Rajesh George.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed principals, being a treasurer of Mumbai Sahodaya, I extend a very hearty welcome to the 29th National Annual Conference for Sahodaya School Complex. Since morning we are together getting indulged into this evolving space. Change is inevitable, and we as school leaders, we need to embrace this change. Change is constant. The world which we are facing today is more of digital friendly and also about, it is more about the landscape which is more challenging, and we have to embrace this challenge. Our generation need to face this challenge and also need to turn the page which is not very friendly. So the topic today we are going to cover in our panel discussion is Beyond Worlds, Redefining Learning Space for 21st Century Education. If we are talking about this education, it is moving far away from the traditional pattern. We are embracing the digitalization, and it has become an integral part in everyday's life. Very rightly it has been said that this COVID has taught us a lot, and we as school principals and educators, we must appreciate that we were not so much computer friendly or digital friendly before this. Right, friends? And so today, my first question would be to Mr. Girish Dalviji, that how can schools effectively integrate music, drama, and arts into the digital learning environment to foster creativity, emotional intelligence, and holistic development among students?
Thank you, Dr. Saha. Actually, most of the points have been already spoken by some of the esteemed speakers before. However, when you look at art as a space, it is spaceless. It is boundless. There's a lot one can do within a small square area also. As an artist, the first thing that one acquires or one learns is to not think about space, but just think. Just imagine and venture out into something that is completely abstract, yet being conscious about coming out with a purpose, getting a result. And that is exactly how we can bring that in the school and integrate it with technology, where we allow students to explore. As teachers, we facilitate the entire environment and bring the dynamics out of the child's mind, and then have it presented and shared with the other students. That's what I would say.
Very rightly said, Girishji, that yes, innovation is the main mantra, right?
Absolutely.
And music and art is the place where people really innovate and they get indulged in those areas.
Absolutely.
And that is the space you create for students in the learning areas. So my next question would be to Mr. Rajiv Pandeyji, that being innovative, being digital, how we can how can schools effectively integrate quality assurance measures to ensure that the redefined learning space meet the highest standards in terms of accessibility, inclusivity, and the delivery of this dynamic education?
Good evening all. Very right question, ma'am. I hope I'm audible. The question which you just asked is more or less which was the point which was raised by the Honorable Secretary Education Government of India in the morning. He said that why don't all schools in India, especially CBSE schools, go with a minimum benchmark? We should set a minimum benchmark for all the schools, and that very benchmark should be taken up by all the schools, and we have to go up to that level. So for this, CBSE has introduced SQA, School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework, where all schools are now allowed to assess themselves first. They have to assess, then they have to evaluate where they are standing right now. And on the basis of that, they can set their own benchmark from this level. We need to go to the next level, and they can adopt for different things. There are 7 different modules in that. Under those 7 modules, there are much more modules which has to be taken up into consideration. And what I feel is that implementing accessible infrastructure is the very first important thing. The speaker before to us talked about the infrastructure a lot, so I need not to speak on that. But yes, as per the norms, we need to upgrade the infrastructure. Then we can go for the regular assessment of the students. And of course, the very important need of the hour for today's schooling is teachers training. So working on all these aspects, we can have a great system of evaluating the school on quality and assess the students on that. This is what I feel.
Thank you so much. Yes, very rightly said, Pandeyji, that as we keep on experimenting, this kind of setting parameters is very important with the quality aspect. When we talk about education, earlier we used to talk about quantity, but today we talk about more about quality, which anyway speaks about. So whenever we are experimenting, as it was stated by Girishji, but then it has to be with the parameter of quality, and that has to be done where digital space gives lot of probability and lot of experimentation to assess that. And also in this assessment itself, this digital space gives lot of confidence to as the educators. And regarding the same, my next question would be to Rajesh ji, that while designing education system for the future, in every way, can the learning environment be structured to emphasize skill development alongside traditional academic subjects?
Good evening to all. I believe that we are in an era where we have started a huge change, a paradigm shift. We have a lot of ATLs in the country, but how many of our ATLs are being utilized to teach the foundational concepts in science and mathematics? We are limiting our classes in our classrooms specific to the subjects. We are not taking our kids to integrate the application of science and application of maths in real life for them to experience in the ATL labs that has been set up by Government of India in more than 10,000, 15,000 schools. The future as we know it, there is a new scenario where man and machine coexist. There needs to be a training that we have to give our next generation on the language that our children has to speak, to coexist with machines, to coexist with the technology. So that language are we teaching them? We are bothered about the numeracy and literacy skills. Are we equally bothered about the language capabilities, the fluency, the vocabulary that our kids need to have in the future scenario where man and machine coexist? We're talking about AI, we are concerned about AI. But are we really thinking beyond our textbooks so that we can take this thought and whatever resources we have in our ATLs, in our labs, can we bring it into our classrooms, break the four walls, take our kids into the labs, into the ATLs, led by a mathematics teacher, by a science teacher? Can we get it done? Now, when I look around, I see our subjects are watertight. Our teachers, they don't want to have a cross-curricular approach to it. The whole approach is changing, because when you're looking at the startup ecosystem of India, I believe we should have our classrooms as incubators for startups. When you have the startup culture, both failure and success is learning. So we need to have a futuristic vision on education from a startup scenario. So when you think as a startup school, when you think of startup entrepreneurs as principals being the incubators and the drivers, I think flexible learning happens, and beyond textbooks, beyond subjects, will initiate entrepreneurship, will initiate innovation, and will blend science, maths into technology, engineering, and arts, which is the aesthetics. Thank you.
Thank you, Atulji. Yes, very rightly stated that only learning cannot happen within the four walls. It requires its implementation and the practical applicability. And also the students, they need to have that practical knowledge to implement it, to practice it. Now, if we talk about the ancient era, if I talk about Rabindranath Tagore, whose classroom used to be the entire world under the tree, where students used to learn with the experiment. And today we are talking about the Adult Tinkering Lab, where we have brought those nature within those four walls. So it is always a point of discussion whether we should take our classroom outside, experiment, or we should do the experiments within the class framework. So whatever may be the infrastructure, or whatever may be the school conditions, the environment, the natural condition being prevailing over those areas, one is inevitable that students just cannot have the rote learning, and which is very rightly stated that there should be the practical implementation. So regarding the same, the connecting question to Mr. G.B. Patilji, that how can we deconstruct the typical classroom and find innovative spaces for experience and engagement?
Thank you, ma'am. And I think our previous presentation has taken us local to global, how we can create innovative spaces. I believe spaces are themselves change agents. These change agents can change the practices, and it can bring the people together, it can lead, it can encourage collaboration, communication, exploration. And nowadays we see more and more the power of built pedagogy in colleges and universities across the globe. When I say built pedagogy, it is the ability of space to influence how one teaches. And we have to consider three areas. One is changes in our students, because we have been seeing a lot of changes in our students. Second is the information technology. And the third one is what are our learning needs. So these are the three things when we are planning to use the spaces that will really allow us to look forward how we can plan the spaces innovatively. And I believe the students, whether it is at age of 6, 15 or even 21, they have a lot of expectations, they have attitudes, and they have constraints. So we have to think from all these perspectives when we are planning the innovative spaces. And then at the same time, we can go ahead with the studio classroom, we can go ahead with the student engaged designs, or even we can think of going ahead with the maker spaces and innovation lab. I believe it should be thought from each one's perspective, but then we will have to change the mindset as it was told. And then finally, I believe is that we need to have more and more research about how we can create those innovative spaces within the limitations what we have. And then that can lead the, we can have the labs which we can create on our own. We can also have the reusability of those all those instruments, and also we can think of the partnership, community partnership. So I think we can have applied research on even how we can use the rearrangeable furniture, lights, and the lighting system. So I believe the mindset itself will be the thought we can lead ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, G.B. Patilji. Yes, very rightly said. Today, as we are speaking about moving away from the traditional educational framework and the kind of classroom which we always think about, a teacher's desk and a chair with 40 desks or 20 desks and chairs or benches. Why can't we have a space where inclusivity can be there, which you rightly stated, that it has to include all categories and all ways of learning styles. There can be some students sitting on the ground on the satrangi, and people can be on the bean bags, even they can be relaxing on the bed, and there can be 4 benches as well. Learning should happen. The way they are sitting, it should be embraced by the educators. If we are standing in front of the classroom, it should not be that students also should sit straight and should be very attentive. They can even do the drawing while listening. That also we need to accept, and that is how your answer, I can say that this is how the open-mindedness we should have as educators, and that should bring that inclusivity in our classroom, and we need to embrace this change. So regarding the same, my next question would be to Dalvi ji, that in what ways can these artistic elements contribute to a more well-rounded and engaging educational experience, aligning with the evolving demands of the 21st century?
Firstly, when the art integration was spoken a lot within the teachers' fraternity, there was always fear in the mind. Do I need to dance? Do I need to sing in the class? Do I need to jump around? Yes, I need to do that, but as an element of my teaching process, and not be real dancers or actors. That is something that we need to do. What art, and in art I also add sports, brings to us is that the desire to explore. And that is something that the teacher has to incorporate in her or his approach of teaching, and build an ecosystem or an environment within the classroom where this fear of exploring something new should be not there. Rather, they should be excited about, which we see in preschools, but when we grow, we tend to kind of have a lot of fears around us. That is something that we need to look at. We need to also, as teachers, be able to use art elements to also help students distinguish between what is imagination, what is reality, what we kind of, need to look for from within the environment or the learning that we acquire. Be very objective, very specific about it. And that is only possible when I, as an educator, as a teacher, am able to be clear within me. My mind space, which is the most crucial space of everyone present here, has to be clear. And that rationality, that logical reasoning is something that we artists or sports people have, and because of a lot of, challenges that we have. In fact, if you look at sports especially, we talk about technology integration today in education, but sports has been doing for a very long time, because we are constrained of space. Where do we practice? How do we practice? So how do we exercise? All that has been possible because of digitization. And that was only possible because we wanted to do it. That wanting to do it is something that we teachers need to keep on discussing and exploring. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Girish Dalviji. Yes, you have spoken about the kind of acceptability that we should have as educators, where we need to explore more. The world is not today constrained with this thought process of three branches which today the distinguished speakers today, Sanjay ji as well as Mr. Manoj Joshi ji spoke about. It is not about arts, commerce and science. It is about more about innovation and the creativity of the thinking process of the child that they want to explore within themselves, and also the find out the potential. It is not about what the teacher want to be with their students or the institutions. They name it as science college or commerce college or arts college. It is the kind of exploration where students need to explore which branch, which subject they need to explore and they have the passion about. So they need to name it about that, and that is how it has to go around. And today, if you, all my distinguished guests today, if we have seen today's the conference, the stall areas, we have integrated art, and if you have visited the stalls, the topics has been shown through different art form, starting from Rangoli itself, which is also with the NEP, and the NEP has been integrated with this art form. Yes, I know, yes.
Only one thing I would add. Today we experienced, we spoke about NEP policy being 66 pages, but I'm sure most of us, though we have read, we are still not well versed with it. But with one presentation done by Birla School, says it all. And I think right from the teachers to students, everybody understands now what NEP is all about and how we need to approach. That is itself speaks. And we just had this space and this digital space to explore everything. So that's what I would add. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So regarding the same, I would like to ask the next question to Rajiv Pandey, that in what ways can processes adapt to the evolving nature of education, particularly with the integration of digital tools and innovative teaching methodologies? Be brief, sir.
I will be brief on this, but I would like to quote one very important thing over here. We talk about technology since morning. We are discussing about technology, but we have forgotten COVID. The COVID has taught technology to each and every school in India. Gone were the days when we used to have one Dronachar and many eklavs. The scenario is totally changed now. We have one eklav and many Dronachar, and this is just because of technology. Now a student, if he is in class, is not able to get what the teacher is talking about. He will go back home, open up this computer or laptop or even his mobile, and he can get n number of people discussing about the same topic. So we need to work on this. The teachers, the educators now have to take up technology, and without technology you cannot run your schools or even no classes. So we have to come up with the technology, use of the technology, and our previous speaker just talked about that. The presentation he prepared, he has taken from the ChatGPT. So this is the level where the technology is in our system now. We can also solve out one more very important problem. Again, I will quote the Secretary Sir from the Government of India Education Department. He talked about assessment, that there is a child who got 96% again, and then the mother was planning for the 100% or something like that. Assessment, if we go with the online kind of assessment, now you can see the variation. The questions can vary from, there will be a very varied question paper and many other things. Adding to that, we can have blended learning approach. And the teachers training, again, can be both in the blended mode, online and offline. That can help out the number of teachers, and so the teachers can use or start using technology in the system. So this is from my side.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. Yes, very rightly said that technology is the connecting point between the student and the teacher today. Earlier, when the patients used to visit the doctor used to press this area, the nerve, and the nurse, jisko hum bolte hain, and used to speak about whatever the difficulties the patient used to have. Today, that nurse of the child remains with the technology. Am I right? So, connecting to this, Atul ji, my next question would be to you is that how can educators design experiences that not only educate but also spark a love for learning, incorporating elements of play and collaborative learning?
Thanks, ma'am. Two things, ma'am, if I have to divide this question. One is, we've seen whenever we try to create something, that is the time when you learn the most. So if we give that, if we bring that real life experiences inside the school, or we take the students outside the school in the space where they can create something, is when you can actually spark the love. We love learning stuff where we can see something being created out of it. We love some stuff where we can see things moving for us. So that is one. Secondly, ma'am, if something is aligned to what we do on a day-to-day basis, if there is something which we see on a day-to-day basis, we automatically want to learn more about it, we get curious about it. So more and more things which we do on a day-to-day basis, if we can bring into the classrooms and we start teaching it. So from a teacher-focused, teacher-led pedagogy, if we direct it to the students' learning perspective, that is the time when I think that we will be able to create that love for the subject. We always say, you know, if somebody knows maths, he loves maths more. So similarly, if you do on a day-to-day basis, like financial literacy, for example, is one of the subjects. Every kid today uses, money. If I can get that into the classroom and if I can give simulation projects, then obviously we would be able to learn it much faster, because that's something which we're using on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Atulji. Yes. So very rightly said, until and unless we believe the student and we are not away from the rote learning, and it is basically our pedagogy where it lies everything, because the educators need to change the pedagogy within the classroom, and it has to be more of experimentation. So today, even Sanjay ji spoke about the assessment pattern need to be changed. If the assessment pattern is away from the rote learning, and if we can use the digitalization more about it, I feel that students will get more scope about experimenting, project-based, and will be away from the rote memorization, and it will be more about conceptualization, and that will make our future more brighter, and the students will be more prepared to face the challenges, right? And so in that respect, my last question would be to Mr. G.B. Patil ji, that in what ways can research-backed ideas about effective teaching and learning be integrated into the digital education landscape?
Thank you, ma'am. I think it's crucial to optimize effectiveness of online as well as hybrid learning environments. And there are several ways which we can try. We can have personalized learning platforms, active engagement, or as rightly stated by Honorable Secretary in the morning, is that nowadays children are getting isolated. So we can also come up with social emotional learning, and wherein we can try and make them, using these online tools, emotionally, socially developed. Or also we can utilize the metacognitive strategies, wherein these metacognitive strategies can allow them to self-regulate, self-monitor their performance. They can set the goals using these metacognitive strategies. We can also apply metacognitive science with these digital tools. And beyond that, we have been seeing the this research-backed ideas with the teachers' professional development. Even in the morning, we have released a few magazines, and I think the training department is coming up with a lot of efforts to empower the teachers, because I believe what we have stated, the theme of the this Sahodaya conference is that quality transformation, and I believe quality transformation begins with the teachers. So we can utilize these ideas with the transformation with the teacher professional development, and it is up to us again, like how judiciously we make the best use of these ideas with the research.
Thank you, G.B. Patil ji. Yes, very rightly stated that it is about the experimentation, the metacognitive pedagogy style, and also about exploration, and also about the communication. And this communication will help the child to express, right? So it is a positive communication. It is not only the one-way communication from the teacher to the child, but it has to be more interactive, and also where a lot of experiments and digital tools need to be used so that it becomes interface between the child and the teacher, and the learning do happen within the classroom. So thank you so much, and I believe that we are able to justify with the topic. Thank you so much. Thank you all, and wish you that you have enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Check. Thank you all the panel members. I request you to please stay on stage. Thank you for conducting such an elaborate session and trying to discuss every minor detail about the topic. So now I would quickly request Mr. Manoj Sharma and Mr. Biswajit Saha to kindly felicitate our panel members, Mr. Girish Dalvi. I request you all to please come on stage, sir. Round of applause for the panel head, Dr. Rashmi Rekha Saha, and all the panelists. Thank you once again.